Okay, so it's part 3 of lesson 9. We just want to add a remove from cart feature, which we haven't done. So we've got quite a few files here. We can close a lot of them up. Orders controller. We're basically just going to need to work with these files. We'll need our shopping cart index, our shopping cart controller, and our shopping cart model. Those will be the last files we need. So in our shopping cart index, let's add a 4th column to the table. So right now our cart looks like this. Right, we got 3 columns. We want a remove column, and we'll maybe move this checkout button over to the last column. So after our quantity heading, let's just put in a 4th heading that says remove. And inside of our loop, we'll put on a 4th column. In here, we can use an HTML action link. Our links will say remove. I'm going to call a remove from cart method in our shopping cart controller. And we're going to need one more thing on here. How are we going to know what to remove? Yeah, we'll need to pass album ID. So in our shopping cart controller, when we're adding, we had an integer ID, so we'll need the same thing. We need to pass in the album ID. And the last parameter is just going to be a null. That's for any HTML attributes in case we want to add like a class or something like that. So there's our link. So that's going to go in the 4th column of our loop. Now we still only have 3 columns at the bottom. I'm going to put in an empty column in the 3rd position. So our checkout link will appear underneath all of our remove links. Don't really have to do that, just I think our cart's going to look a little better that way. So our cart should look like this now. You can just go back and reload it. So our checkout link should move over here. In fact, maybe I'll change the heading from remove because we got different things in the column. We've got remove, we have checkout. Maybe I'll change this heading to say something like actions. Might be a little better. So we can see when I mouse over the remove links, you can see the album ID is being appended onto the end of those URLs. You can see in the bottom left in my status bar, first one says 386, second one says 389. So if we click our remove link, what's going to happen? What happens when you click yours? And what's the error say? What kind of error do you get? Sequinder? Yeah, 404. Why do we get a 404 error? That's right. There is no remove from cart method in our shopping cart controller. So we need to write that, and then we need to write our remove method in our model. So we're calling a method called remove from cart in the shopping cart controller and passing it a parameter called ID. Actually, I guess we'll keep it the same as with our add to cart. We'll use a capital I. So now in our shopping cart, I'll maybe put this right under my add to cart method. So again, we'll accept the value, input value of ID. So we'll get the current cart. So just like in our add, we'll pass in the HTTP context because it has information about who the user is. Then we only need 2 more lines here. We're going to call a remove from cart method. It doesn't exist yet. We're going to have to write it. And then what should we do? What should the user see, or where should we take them after they click remove from cart? Yeah, we can just redirect back to the shopping cart index, and it will, the index calls get cart again, so the cart content should be refreshed. So remove from the cart. And then lastly, we will redirect to index to show the updated cart. It's actually almost the same as add to cart. So far, the 2 lines we've put in there are exactly the same. The only difference is this calls our add to cart method in our model. We're going to need a cart dot now we're getting an error here because we haven't written that method in our controller yet. Sorry, in our cart model. I'm going to show you a neat feature of Visual Studio I probably should have shown you long before now. So we're going to write this method, but it doesn't yet exist. So Visual Studio gives us a red line. It says the shopping cart class has no definition or method for remove from cart. But we have some potential fixes. One of those fixes is, hey, do you want Visual Studio to create an empty remove from cart method in shopping cart? Well, sure. We'll let Visual Studio do it. Again, I just moused over my line. I click show potential fixes. And then in yellow, I get this generate remove from cart method. I'll just double click that. Notice my error goes away now. And if I want to go to that method, I can just right click it and choose go to definition. So this has just been added. Visual Studio just added this to our model. Now it throws an error right now. It's empty. So we'll change that. We'll change this method to public. We'll take that out. That's just default text. So we want to get the selected album because we need to figure out what the current quantity is. If the quantity is 1, we're going to remove it entirely. What are we going to do if the quantity is more than 1? So they've got 3 of this album in their cart and they click remove. What should happen? Yeah, we're going to change the quantity from 3 to 2. We want to get the album ID is equal to our ID and cart ID is equal to our shopping cart ID. So that's going to be equal to the username. So go and get this shopping cart line item for this album and this user. So if this item is found, which it should be, if quantity is 1, delete the item. If quantity greater than 1, subtract 1 from the quantity. If it's 1, make it 0. Delete it entirely. If it's more than 1, just subtract 1. If our item.count equals 1, we'll mark that item to be deleted. And if they've got more than 1, we'll use minus minus to subtract 1 from the current value. And then we can just call save. So we don't want to make the quantity 0 if they've bought 1. We want to delete it entirely from the cart. This should be all we need to do, I think. Pass in the album. We already know the identity of the user's shopping cart. And then decide if we're deleting or just subtracting. So let's build. We'll try it. I'm going to go back to my cart. So I'm going to first try removing this item that I have 1 of. That's good. My page reloads, my quantity's updated, and my item's gone. Now this one I have 2. So what should happen here is it shouldn't disappear, but my quantity should go down from 2 to 1, and my price should then just be $8.99. So we got that. And then if we empty the last item in our cart, interesting. We should deal with this as well. I forgot we hadn't dealt with this. That when we go to cart, what should we see once there's no items in the cart? Yeah, we should probably see a message and not see this empty table. So we should have put a little if statement on our shopping cart index view. So our remove seems to work. But here we're always displaying this table. So maybe under our heading, we should have a little check. If we'll have an if and an else. I'll move my whole table, everything inside of the else. If we have nothing, we'll say if there are no items, we'll show them an empty cart message. So this entire table goes now inside of a set of curly braces. So we get this message when my cart is empty. So now I want to put something in and remove it and make sure that message comes back. So I can add. So there's no sense showing that table if there's no items. So we just added this along with a closing curly brace down at the very bottom. Now, there are lots of other things we could do with our shopping cart to make this a full-blown store. We could simulate payments. We could do storing of addresses, as Penka suggested earlier. We haven't really dealt with the scenario that someone is shopping anonymously, putting things in their cart, and then they log in. Right now, they're losing those items. There are things we could implement, but we've done quite a bit with it, really, so far. So we're not really going to add any additional functionality to the cart. What we will do next week, as we'll start looking at, and you will need for your assignment, is we'll look at unit testing for this. So we did, when we set this up way back when, we enabled the unit testing option. So we have this other project down here that has one controller that has some unit tests. So this will basically just test whether certain pages will load, but we want to test some of our actual methods that work with our data, like our index and details method. So we'll look at how unit testing works over the next couple of weeks. I will push this up to GitHub. Are there any questions today about what we've done with our shopping cart?
Question, because I asked the algorithm on the non-client side as well. Should we be, as programmers, worried about the resources, how it takes our servers up on Azure, for example?
Absolutely, you should be. Because on a cloud service, you pay for the amount of usage. It's not a fixed cost. So if you build a very resource intensive application and it's not efficient, it's going to cost your client a lot more money to host it. So yes, you should be concerned.
Okay.
Add this to GitHub. Are there any other questions about our music store project? The other thing you could attempt to do with it if you want, I don't think we really have time to do it, is on the Microsoft tutorial site, they actually did a little different version of their remove from cart. So what they've actually used in the tutorial is they've used jQuery and Ajax so that when you remove an item, here's this jQuery script. It actually updates the cart without refreshing the whole page. So this is something you could try. And some people in my other class asked about it. We didn't have time to do it. So I did record a video earlier today. So in COMP2007 playlist, in finishing the music store, the first part of that is implementing a jQuery and Ajax solution to removing from the cart. So you can try that if you want to. So that updates your cart and the page never reloads. So it's a bit of a higher performance, better user experience. So Alex, that's the kind of thing you would want to do if you're hosting in a production application, because that saves resources and bandwidth rather than reloading the entire page. Okay, so that video demo is there if you want it. Okay, so everything we've done is on GitHub now.